Dr. Desai, please.
Thank you. Was this terror HOD surgery at the Medical College Ahmedabad when I was doing my MBBS. So I have one of my teachers from the undergraduate days here. I have Dr. Sharma Saab, who has been our mentor for generations of psychiatrists, besides being many other things. We have Dr. Kamal Bakshi, a senior but a dear friend from my days at AIIMS Delhi. And of course, we have this Dr. Chadda being a friend and colleague. We seem to exchange between IBAS and AIIMS. Rakesh Chadda and I. We kind of keep it alternating from AIIMS Delhi to IBAS. And of course, this group of young, eager faces, eager to learn. And I must say, the Dean's brief introduction, your experience and concern, if I might say, as a practicing neurosurgeon. I mean, when you spoke about those road traffic accidents, you know, I mean, I can imagine as a psychiatrist having seen so much, you must have seen so much of the, you know, underbelly of the effects of alcohol in your neurosurgical work that I could see the passion behind that, the clinical passion, besides the personal beliefs. I was wondering at 9:30 in the morning, why am I swaying? But believe you me, I am not. There is this wonderful platform here that seems to sway. I did for a minute wonder. I mean, at 9:30 in the night, but 9:30 a.m. I believe, truly, Dr. H.L. Patel Sahab, having known him as a teacher 40 years ago and having followed NMS conferences somewhat in the last 10 years, it's a privilege to have him and Dr. R.K. Chadda, my friend and colleague. He's a huge motivator. Let me just find my slides if I may first. This. But truly, as I was told by the organizing committee, that we might not have at dinner what we are going to have plenty of during the day. One is told, which is as well. But I did like, besides appreciating your director's comments, I did like also what the Dean said in passing, but beautifully, about how just like the Indian society is epidemiologically a description, a variance of from non-use to dependence, there is in this all, I dare say, you know, a range of people who might have personal and or professional experiences of dealing with alcohol in different ways. I do want to say that, as has already been said enough, briefly, quickly, as I get to these slides, as I think Dr. Rajkumar said beautifully, honestly, everything else aside, I mean, please understand, and I hope you will at the end of these 20-30 minutes, that humor for me is a part of serious talk. So don't misunderstand humor as being any, you know, lighter emphasis on the subject, right? But, and we have account of share, we have enjoyed so much of that, serious talk with humor. But truly, as Dr. Rajkumar said what he said, some of the major public health problems facing the humanity across the globe, and certainly in countries like ours, amongst the 3 or 5 I would think, is alcohol. HIV is one, sure, you know, there are a few others, but be sure, alcohol, as I am sure will become clear through the day, is a major public health problem, if not already here, in the making. Let there be no mistake about that, for sure. For various reasons, and so as I was looking at the program, I realized that Dr. Bajaj Saab, like Dr. Sharma Saab, Dr. Bajaj Saab, the teacher of teachers, has actually worked out the whole day's program, I think, so beautifully, that at the end of the day, this group of young undergraduates and the young faculty should certainly be a lot more knowledgeable, if not also passionate, about one of the major public health problems that we have. I am not rambling, please be sure. I am really, as I find my slides said, I'm trying to set the tone for. Yeah, list नहीं है. Why can't I get to the list? And mental health professionals, when we interact with our medical colleagues in the medical colleges or institutions like AIIMS, and now 7 of them, so wonderful. But there is a need to set the tone in terms of the mental health perspective. The global estimates say that 1 in 4 people can have a mental disorder. So look at 3 people around you, and if they seem normal, you get the hint. Recently, indeed, our Indian Health Minister has said, even for India, these are global estimates, 1 in 4. Up until recently, we believed, and we in mental health believed that the prevalence was at best 10%. And I would still believe that the epidemiological scientific data about prevalence of mental disorders in this country is up to 10%. But I'm sure the Indian Health Ministry and the Honorable Health Minister has other data sets where he has on 10th October, while releasing the National Mental Health Policy, actually gone ahead and said 20%, 1 in 5. So it seems that like everything else, and we determined not to lag behind in anything, and so in alcohol and mental health disorders, sadly. But that's the institution that I've been at for the last 15 years, and the founding director and the conceptualizer of that is here, Dr. Sridhar Sharma Saab, besides many other institutions that he had set up. This is briefly to share with you essentially an institute, hospital-based institution like NIMHANS Bangalore, dealing with, as we have said, brain-mind problems and their solutions. I'm happy to share with you that this is one of the very few government health institutions and the only mental health neuroscience institution, private or government sector, that actually has NABH accreditation. So there is a certain quality assurance that we have besides postgraduate academic programs and research and a whole lot of stuff. I'll not get into that too much. But please realize the variation that again was referred to some extent. If you want to talk about something like alcohol in a country as diverse as this, you really have to have huge data sets, and which we still do not have. There are satisfactory data sets. Just roll straight away for that group, at least there, is audio and visual both. So you'll please follow what is on the slide and follow the audio that you get. So please don't expect me to read out what's on these slides. Please learn to synchronize your audio and the visual inputs. But essentially there are also huge economic angles to that. Alcohol policy or alcohol consumption pattern has huge economic policies in all countries, and certainly like ours, as Dr. Rajkumar Saab said very well, besides the formalized data set available on production and manufacture, production and sale of alcohol, there is so much of the countryside, home-made brew, illicit liquor. So when you talk about consumption pattern, it becomes fairly difficult to really get very accurate data. That's the side of limitations. The other thing is that alcohol essentially, like health, is a state subject, and so is the taxation. And so at a national level, it's going to be a little difficult, besides recommendatory, to really have a policy that all the 30 odd states will necessarily follow. But broadly, as of today, it can be said that 30% of our countrymen are one or the other kind of users, and as I think here said, accurate, 97% you said, 3% of adult women are one or the other kind of users. So amongst men, 30%, amongst women, 3% at the broadest estimate, if you want to remember. Don't mistake this, please. We are not talking about addiction, we are not talking about abuse, we are talking about any kind of use. Occasional, to habitual, to regular, social use, to abuse, to addiction. In other words, and the other figure if you want to remember, 62 million alcohol users, 17% of whom are alcohol dependent. So actually the talk is done. On this introduction slide, you have some of the most important figures, and you have it. But it can't be. So we'll possibly get into some data. I'll not burden you too much. There is a low. But the important trends are initiation of alcohol use at an early age, larger consumption among women and youth. Again, Dr. Rajkumar had, I think, so perceptively, so beautifully said that. Greater permeation to rural and semi-urban areas. Not just of the local practices and the local brews, but by specific marketing, very targeted, almost merciless, I suppose including Dr. Rajkumar, who would be my contemporary and very senior esteemed colleagues like Sharma Sahab or Patel Sahab, who must have, I presume, a different position than some of us might have about alcohol use and its social or medical perspective. But the fact of the matter is that much as the European societies and the North American society, if not also the South and Latin American societies, are notorious for high alcohol consumption, in some of them at least, if not more of them than some, the consumption pattern is for beer or alcohol, beer or wine. It's not the, with fullest respect to my friend Dr. Garg from Amritsar, one is not sanctioning, one is not approving, or one is not advocating for increase in alcohol use pattern in general, although one does not need to advocate. If it's bound to happen, it will happen. Social factors, individual factors, marketing, globalization, whatever else. But I think what's important is to realize that in scientific epidemiological terms, the issue becomes much more problem when there is the movement towards spirits from wine and beer. So in a sense, and it might seem contradictory, or at least counterintuitive, it may not be a bad idea to indeed encourage wine and beer use as compared to the spirits, if at all there is going to be a pattern of increased use. I just wanted, when you can, just indicate to me some amount of time issue was, because Rakesh? Huh? Globally, it seems, I hope you can see the 6 WHO regions thing. What's happening is this. Is the increasing trend in our Southeast Asian region that's a problem. Look at it comparatively global trends, or look at it in terms of our own errand data and young age drinking. There is certainly increased alcohol per capita consumption, all age groups, men for sure, and young people. There is a whole lot of increased data explained, documented, again repeatedly. All these data would say, and I'll be happy to send these slides to anyone, men much more than women. Never forget that figure of 30% and 3%. Yeah, all through this talk, all through the day. So like most other things, or at least some other things, men are more to blame than women. But that's actually, jokes aside, there is seriously a problem. Look at this here, again what Dr. I think Rajkumar was referring to, data will only differ slightly. There's a huge difference in, and there is a public health policy issue here, besides the social issues of domestic violence and others. We have an unbelievably, from Western perspective, an unbelievably large body of men, and almost improbable, as global citizenry would see, non-user population of women. Now, it's consciously or unconsciously for this society to decide how far do we want it to proceed towards the user mode. But the fact of the matter as of today is that lifetime abstainers is an exceptionally large number, both genders, and unbelievable in women. And that's a positive. Like our population pyramid would show, we have a lot of young people, and that's a positive for the country. So is this in terms of public health. I'm sure during the day it will become so clear as to what the public health issues are, and I'm resisting the temptation to get into details of what the public health issues are. Clinic attending, over a few decades there is plenty. One can always argue that there's of course increasing awareness, increasing acceptance, increase of services, and so people are reaching more. Fortunately, there have been a variety of studies by science groups. There have been also NFHS surveys. And I'm going to summarize that briefly again, rather than this complicated data. Let me share with you NFHS data as it comes. Hold on, which is NFHS data I'll come to. But this is important, like we have said already, and to keep repeating this. the alcohol use pattern in women is still very low in our country. I want to come to this. The NFHS has actually documented increasing patterns. And if anybody knows better, please guide me. But NFHS 2 to 3, essentially that 8-year difference, 7 or 8-year difference, actually led from 2.4% reported to 11%. For women, fortunately, 0.6 to 1%. So, indeed, the stabilization, even now, the stabilization of alcohol use in women population still seems to hold. Somewhere, despite all the efforts that Rajkumar said the companies internationally are making, but somewhere the Indian men, for sure, seem to be on this roll for increasing alcohol use. And that's important. This is the other figure you might want to remember. This is classically on the alcohol use pyramid in science terms. But as said before, if you want population estimates, 12 million dependent users, 24 million harmful users, 34 million habitual users. That's a lot of people. But of course, in India, we always have the advantage of numbers. Next to China, we are always the largest number. Please visually remember that line graph. From the period of about, say, last 80 or 90 years, the initiation of alcohol use falls from about 27.67 to 19.45 average. That's almost a decade younger. Covered what we needed to cover. I don't want to burden you with data. One mistake, as Dr. Rajkumar again, I think, put beautifully. If you take into account the alcohol use pattern other than the IMFL, Indian made foreign liquor, for whatever it means, the foreign liquor made and manufactured here, if you look at the country made liquor or the home brewed liquor or the illicit liquor patterns, then rural population is nowhere lesser, indeed more of a problem. So we need to also break that myth, as if alcohol use is more of an urban problem. That's another thing that the data set will actually tell you very clearly. I genuinely don't think. Important changing trends. Growth rate, higher consumption where there is higher growth, quantity of alcohol consumed, shift towards spirits. And I want to, you know this, I don't need to highlight that. The globalization and the technological shift that's happening here. I want to come to, again, like we started, bit of humor. That's what we are leading currently. And so the stresses of that, besides every other change, are huge. Never overlook that when it comes to issues like alcohol. In a lighter vein, from mental health perspective, alcohol or otherwise. And we must lighten up, I think, always. Conceptualize a mental health helpline. I'm going to end with this, sir. Conceptualize a mental health helpline. What do you think it will be like? Somewhat. Hello and welcome to the mental health hotline. If you're obsessive compulsive, press 1 repeatedly. If you are codependent, please ask someone to press 2 for you. If you have multiple personalities, press 3, 4, 5, and 6. If you are paranoid, we know who you are and what you want. Stay on the line so we can trace your call. It's not over. If you are schizophrenic, listen carefully and a small voice will tell you which number to press. If you are a depressive, it doesn't matter which number you press, no one will answer. If you are bipolar disorder, please leave a message after the beep or before the beep or after the beep, please wait for the beep. And this is the one that I like best actually, even amongst all these.